The second drama that is set is My Children, My Africa, and this is a very popular choice. It says, read the extracts from the play. Remember, there will be 2 extracts. Answer the questions and watch the mark allocation. It reminds you again, you've got to answer on both extracts. We're given a little bit of information. Isabel invites Mr. M and Tami. So let's just have a look at it. It's where she says, I want you to come for tea. Then she asks him what's wrong. And then she talks about Mr. M. So we're in Act 1, Scene 5. We've got, once again, the characters in the left-hand column and something about them in the right-hand column. But what's a bit uncomfortable here is that only Miss Dyson is an obvious character. So we know that Isabel wants to be a journalist. So you go 4.1.1a, the obvious answer is B. Now, do you see that sometimes the characters that they choose, because there are only really 3 main characters in this play, it's quite difficult for them to ask the 3 main characters every single time. So these are minor characters, but you really need to know the text very well. So is Miss Brockway a teacher in number 2 classroom? Surely not. Is Miss Brockway renting a room, encouraging a groundbreaking debate, or the mayor of Kamdaboo? So you should remember at this point that Miss Brockway is the principal of the girls' school. So she is the one who's very happy to have the debate. Now, Mr. Pienaar, would he be a teacher? No. Renting a room? Unlikely. The mayor of Kamdaboo? Well, that's much more possible. And the Reverend Mbopa, you probably remember, is the person renting the room. So don't panic, because you might get something a bit trickier in My Children, My Africa for this first question than maybe in the other set works. But you can work it out. Just keep calm and work it out. Right, describe the setting. Right, so when I answered this, when is not a problem. Where, for me, was a bit of a problem. So let's just start with when. So what does she talk about in this passage? She says they're having a good time, they're a team, they are cramming for the festival. So the when is easy. Isabel and Tami are preparing for the general knowledge questions on literature for the festival. And Isabel has just invited Tami to come to tea to meet her parents. So that for me is easy. The where is not so easy. There are a number of scenes in this play where we're not actually told where it is. So what I found quite interesting is that if you look at the memo, it says it could be Zolile High, it could be Kamdaboo Girls High, or it could simply be the stage. I found that interesting, and I think the examiners put that in because some of the scenes are just not specified. Let's look at the next one. So remember setting, time and place. Don't leave it out just because we're not sure. Right, Isabel's words. Lines 3 to 6, they know I to at the festival. Our question word is explain the meaning. They know I to the festival, lines 3 to 6. They know I have a good time with you, that we're a team, which they're now very proud of, incidentally, and that we're cramming like lunatics. so that we can put up a good show at the festival. So, they know I have a good time with you. Who's the they? Isabel's parents know that Isabel is enjoying working with, I'm now looking at the team, working with Tommy in order to prepare for the festival. Then I missed out this little bit. They're now very proud of that her parents are proud of what she is doing. And what I don't think I explained well enough was cramming. I'm sure you know cramming. I'm sure you all cram for tests and exams, not for your finals, but it's learning a lot of stuff very quickly. So try to explain all of it. So do what I did, put my first answer down, and then added in the extra points. Have we done enough? 2 marks? Yes, we've covered everything. Identify the figure of speech, and then we know what's coming. Explain why the figure of speech is relevant, by which they mean effective. So, honestly to tightrope, lines 8 to 9. Honestly, sometimes dealing with the two of you is like walking on a tightrope. I identify. It is a simile, like walking on a tightrope. Why it's effective. In this simile, right, now what is compared to what? Make sure that you know, so the tightrope is up there and the acrobat has to walk along the tightrope. So Isabel is referring to her position between Tommy and Mr. M, and she compares it to walking on a tightrope. Then you explain, as an acrobat, now needs what? Needs a lot of skill to walk on the tightrope to make sure that she does not fall. So Isabel feels that she is in constant danger of upsetting one or the other, or of something going very wrong in her dealing, in her relationship with the two men. That a tightrope walker has to keep their balance, and that it takes a lot of concentration and effort. And in the same way, Isabel feels that she needs to think a lot about this relationship, because she's got to keep her balance between these two. And she could fall, she could make a mistake and upset them or ruin the relationship with one or the other or both. I've done quite a lot of work there. It's only for 2 marks, so you need to get at least some of that down. Right. The atmosphere is relaxed. It is false. Why? Because in this extract, the atmosphere is particularly tense. Very straightforward. Now, betrayal is mentioned often enough for it to be a major theme in the play. So discuss this theme. Remember, it's not enough just to tell the story. I need a discussion. So find 3 examples of betrayal. Well, Mr. M is accused of betraying the activists by giving the names to the police. And as a result, they take action against him and kill him, which shows that that the activists are very, very sensitive. I can't think of a good word here. They're very sensitive to, or maybe I should say fearful of, betrayal and they will take violent action in order to deal with people they see as traitors. Then you could say Mr. M feels betrayed by Tommy, that he has fostered Tommy as his student and feels very involved in his life and very concerned for his future and has tried to ensure the best for him and feels misunderstood by Tommy and rejected by Tommy, and his action is to tell the police about the activists. You could say that Isabel feels betrayed by Tommy when he leaves their team. He no longer wants to participate in the festival, and she feels completely, again, misunderstood, and she does not understand why working with her is somehow unacceptable to the activists. And her response is to be very hurt and bitter. So each bullet, don't just tell the story, give me a little discussion, link this to the idea of betrayal, try and tell me the nature of the betrayal, the response to that betrayal, why people would feel betrayed, and in other words, what they trusted, how they trusted the other person, why what the other person does or says would be seen as betrayal, and then how people react when they feel betrayed. Right, so again we have a statement and discuss your view. So you start with yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree. But in order to answer that, you have to decide on what were the expectations of Isabel and her teammates when they go to Zalile, and whether those expectations are valid or not. So let's start with the expectations. First of all, they are quite racist. They expect that the black students who will be debating in English will be inferior. They also assume that those black students are going to be respectful of these amazing white girls, and that they will be in awe of them because these white girls have condescended to come to their high school in order to debate. Now, is that valid? Well, that's not valid. So why not? First of all, the black students prove themselves to be absolutely equal to the challenge. They are highly effective debaters, that the floor, the people watching, are as involved and intelligent and committed to the debate as the main speakers, that they're not respectful and in awe of the condescending white girls because they are perfectly aware of their own skills and ability. And in fact, rather than being respectful and in awe, they are challenging and critical and wanting the girls to show exactly what they're capable of. They're expecting a very high standard of debating from these girls. So what do? You start with agreement or disagreement, and then you want to make at least 3 points and discuss each one. So I've said they're racist and they think that the black students are inferior, and they're not. That they think that the girls will be respectful, but they are not. They are challenging and critical. And then I need a third point, and I kept on saying condescending. So in fact, their expectations show how condescending and arrogant the girls are. Rather, they are made to feel humble when they actually have the experience of the debate. So you decide on, yes, I agree, I don't agree, but you've got to say, what are they expecting? If you're saying that they expected to have a really good debate, they expected to enjoy themselves, then it would be, yes, I agree. There's always a second extract. Here it is. The end of the literary quiz, the end of the competition that we were discussing in the previous extract. We're in Act 2, Scene 1. Explain why. We need to know the text. That Tami wants to withdraw and that he needs to tell Mr. M that this is his decision. That he's rather going to become an activist, he's going to join the comrades, he's going to be part of the school boycott. Tone. And then why. Line 4, he's got to down to end of it. He's got no choice, Isabel. I've decided, and that's the end of it. He's got no choice, Isabel. That's Mr. M. I've decided to withdraw from the competition. I've decided to join the struggle. That's the end of it. I am not prepared to have any further discussion. So, what tone? I would say something like a determined tone. A resolute tone. I see that the memo also says a defiant tone. To defy is when you stand up to somebody in authority and you say, no, I'm actually not going to. That's it, not going to. A defiant tone. So why would Tami use this tone in this line? So now you're explaining a little bit of the background. That Tami has felt very strongly the conflict with Mr. M for some time. That I think he loves Mr. M, but that he resents Mr. M's assumption that he can decide Tami's actions and Tami's future. He also feels that Mr. M is outdated, that he has endured apartheid for too long, and now is the time for action from the youth against the apartheid system. And so that is why he is now determined. I'm going with determined. Remember, I said here, we'd say Tami would be determined. Remember, we begin the second part with the same word because he no longer is prepared to be in conflict with Mr. M. He has resented Mr. M's making decisions for him, and now he is resolute that he will make decisions about his own actions and his own future, and he will join the action decided by the youth and the comrades. So you begin with that word again to keep you focused. The irony is in his words when he says, I've decided down to the end of it. So it's the same thing. I've decided, and that's the end of it. Now, I must admit, when I first looked at those lines, I didn't think there was any irony there at all. Tommy says, I've decided, I've made my decision, and I refuse to discuss it any further. And I really wondered about, well, what is the irony? You cannot then in the exam say, but I don't see any irony at all. So I looked back at what my answers to the previous questions were, and I saw that I was saying things that in the past, Tommy has allowed Mr. M to make decisions, to decide things for him, to direct him, if you like, even as strong as to control him. And I was already making those points, so I thought, okay, I'm looking for irony. So maybe we could say the irony is that Mr. M expected. Remember, irony is you expect or you believe or you hope or you think or you trust X, but Y is the reality. That Mr. M expected Tommy to continue to behave as he has always done, all of this, but he has not realized that Tommy has become independent. He no longer will allow Mr. M to make decisions for him. You could say that the audience has seen Tommy's resentment and the tension between them, but expected Tommy to continue to accept Mr. M's decisions, discipline, power, control, authority. But the audience now realizes that the reality is that Tommy has reached the end. That's the end of it. So as long as you show the contrast, and as I say, it was one that didn't immediately leap out at me. I think if you know both Macbeth and this play, the irony of, for example, Macbeth believing that killing Duncan is going to lead them into some kind of great future. It's just so much more an obvious irony that it isn't going to happen. But my immediate response, which was, no, but there isn't any irony here. Tommy says, this is the way it's going to be from now on. But you've got to stop and you've got to think. I wasn't seeing this quite the way the examiners were. But in my previous answers, I actually was already touching on it. So once again, it's not panic, not get upset, just look at it again. And it says, explain the irony in Tommy's words. In other words, somebody out there thinks there is irony. What can I see? And just work around it. Keep thinking. Put ideas down. Here comes the director of the play question. What would you tell Isabel to do? Right? So we've got, you owe it, time is involved, lines 9 to 10. Let's read the whole speech. So, do you think we can at least talk about it? Help me to understand. Because to be absolutely honest with you, Tommy, I don't think I do. You're not the only one with a problem. I've also got a big one. What Mr. M had to say about the team and the whole idea made a hell of a lot of sense to me. You owe it to me, Tommy. A lot more than just my spare time is involved. Okay, so what are we seeing? We're seeing a frustrated Isabel. So you aren't to say, I would tell Isabel to show her frustration. No. 2 actions. What should she do to show her frustration? So what do we do when we show frustration? All right, we put up our hands. Sorry, Tommy, you actually owe it to me. So maybe you could say she needs to put up her hands and to gesture. Maybe she needs to say, you owe it to me. Maybe she can point at him. Sorry, Tommy. Tommy, I'm actually just not getting this, and you owe it to me. So maybe that first and that second. I think this for me would come first. Yeah, I think would be. So what would you tell her to do? I don't think, I mean, don't be ridiculous and say, tell her to smack him. You know, but anything that would show her frustration, or maybe to dab at her eyes. Maybe she's, I don't understand, Tommy, you kind of owe it to me. And I tell her to pick up a tissue and dab her eyes or something. So make sure that it's two actions, all right? Just be careful. Don't say, I would tell her to. You're going to state two actions. I'm telling her to do this and do that. Here's the multiple choice question. This should be very straightforward. Yes? Yes, I think so. Very easy. The beginning. So what did we say state of mind? We said how the person is feeling. Okay, lines 16 to 18. How is she feeling? All I'm asking. All I'm asking you to do is explain to me how the two of us learning some poetry, cramming in potted bios, interferes with all of that. I'm going back to frustration. What do you think? Why? So Isabel is feeling frustrated because she can't see how preparing for a literature test, a literature exam, a literature quiz is in conflict with the aims of the comrades, and therefore why her hopes and dreams and her pleasure in working with Tommy, why that should be sacrificed, why she is being asked to sacrifice this, why Tommy has to sacrifice this, for what? She doesn't see why. So I would definitely go with frustrated. Anything that shows that she's confused, she doesn't understand, she's bewildered. Because of their friendship, the idea that they're a team has to be lost. Because for some reason, it's against the comrades. Then what does the extract reveal about Tommy's character? I think there was a question that was meant to be in there. If we talk about potted bios, just can we go back to where are the potted bios? Here. This is an abbreviation for biographies. So what does she mean? Potted means summarized, summaries, short. So short biographies is what she's referring to of these literary figures that they are studying. What does this extract reveal about Tommy's character? This extract. Right, so you go back to the extract. Let's see what we see about Tommy. Now, notice we're not going to see it only in what Tommy says, but also in what Isabel says. So what do we see? That Tommy don't really want to say he's grown up, but certainly he has developed and become independent. He's now going to confront Mr. M and refuse to be controlled by him, that he is now sure of himself and his choices, that he is going to join the comrades, that I think he's also brave. Do you know what's going on? That there is courage there. He's brave, he's courageous. He is going to sacrifice whatever it takes to join the struggle against apartheid. So I've got the courage to confront Mr. M, the determination to do this, sure, he's independent, he makes his own choices and own decisions, and that he's brave enough to sacrifice whatever it takes, his education, his life, to be part of the struggle. And our last question, discuss your view. Remember, you begin, yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree. Okay, lived a wasted life. I think I would start with, no, I do not agree. My first point would be, Mr. M says that he dedicated his life to create critical thinkers, and he feels that the children are showing exactly that by opposing him, apart from anything else, and opposing the government. I don't think it's a wasted life either, in that he has taught many children and had an impact on their lives. The very fact that one little child writing words on walls asks him for spelling is an indication of the impact, or they're leaning out of vehicles when they're being taken away, calling to him for help, is an indication that he hasn't lived a wasted life. And I think I would also argue that Mr. M makes other changes, or he tries to work for change through non-violent means. And the debate that starts this play is an indication of his reaching out across racial barriers in order to bring young people together. You could also argue, as a result of this, of the debate, he has an enormous impact on Isabel and her life and her thinking, and that even if it's one person, your life hasn't been wasted. And I think it's a lot more than that. So you can see, again, the kinds of questions that are being asked and the way that the examiners are looking at the play and the kinds of themes and issues and characters that they are focusing on. So go through other past papers in order to prepare yourself for this particular question.